while the internal intercostals are the inner layer. The externals are more important than the internals in singing because after they contract to raise the ribs, they can simply relax to lower the ribs. Since the diaphragm presses against the lower ribs when it contracts, it also assists in expanding the rib cage. The cycle of breathing on the screen is the rate of one breath every 5 seconds, similar to the breathing of a person at rest. Since we normally breathe about 16 to 20 times per minute, we breathe in and out an amazing 25,000 times a day.
Earthquake just hit the whole East Coast, Virginia.
The ribs cover a large portion of the surface of the lungs, which is why the movement of the ribs has such an effect on the lungs. Moving the ribs outward causes the lungs to expand, resulting in a partial vacuum and causing air to flow in. Moving the ribs inward compresses the air in the lungs, causing it to flow outward. In everyday breathing, this process is small and quick. But in singing, we need to expand the ribs much more. And then, to keep them expanded as singing begins, the external intercostals must remain contracted so the ribs stay out, suspended in an open position, and only gradually relax toward the end of singing. If singers collapse the rib cage when they begin a phrase, then the lungs will lose air too quickly and there won't be enough control for singing. By keeping an open rib cage during singing, exhalation can be efficiently controlled by the diaphragm and abdominal muscles at the bottom of the lungs, as we will soon show you. But first, let us take a look at the structure of the abdominal muscles. The abdominals cover the front part of the body. At the bottom of the body, the abdominal muscles attach to the pubic arch of the pelvis, span across the entire abdomen to the top, where they attach to the ribs and to the sternum. The abdominal muscles exist in 4 separate layers. The first, or outermost layer, the second, the third, and the fourth. The fourth, or innermost pair of muscles, is called the transverse abdominals, with fibers running from the side to the middle of the body. The fibers contract, shortening and thickening the muscle. The second layer is a pair of muscles called the rectus abdominis, which fits into a pocket of the innermost layer at the bottom. Its fibers run vertically from the pubic bone to the sternum. The rectus has 4 sections called bellies. These can contract simultaneously or independently. When they contract independently, we can see a rippling effect, like when a belly dancer moves a coin up and down her abdomen. The third layer is a pair of muscles called the internal obliques, whose fibers run upward from the side to the middle and contract in an oblique angle. The final, outermost layer is a pair of muscles called the external obliques, which are attached high on the ribs. The fibers run downward from the side to the center and also contract in an oblique angle. The 4 layers of muscles mean that the abdominal muscles can contract in several different directions, obliquely downward, obliquely upward, up and down, and across. Because singers can contract the abdominal muscles in a variety of ways, there are also a variety of breathing methods successfully used by singers. Looking at the body from a side view, we can easily see that the 4 abdominal muscles form the front and side walls of the abdomen. If we slice the abdominal muscles, we can see a cross-section of the front muscular wall. The contents of the abdomen, called the viscera, include the liver, the stomach, the large and small intestines, and other organs. The abdominal muscles support and hold in the viscera. The diaphragm, seen here in cross-section, fits snugly over the top of the viscera.
That's not the most up-to-date.
When the diaphragm contracts, it pushes against the viscera and the abdominal muscles, which must relax in order to permit the full descent of the diaphragm. The viscera combine to form quite a large mass, which is moved on every breath. Because the stomach is located beneath the diaphragm, eating a large meal before singing would interfere with a deep inhalation. The movement is minimal during normal daily breathing, when we inhale a relatively small amount of air and exhale by simply relaxing our diaphragm and ribs. However, for singing, we need more breath control. Inhalation must be larger, and exhalation must be slower and more precisely controlled. Let's look back at a front view of the abdominals. The extra control that you need comes from a principle called muscle antagonism, which means 2 muscles pull against each other. In this case, there's a pull between the abdominals and the external intercostals, which, as you'll remember, are located between each of the ribs. The external intercostals pull upward and outward, expanding the ribs, while the abdominals pull in the opposite direction, downward and inward, against the open rib cage. Because the abdominals are anchored at the ribs and at the pelvis, as they contract, the force goes steadily inward and upward, against the viscera, against the diaphragm, and finally against the bottom of the lungs, causing the air to flow out. This abdominal force, in opposition to the external intercostals and the diaphragm, gives the singer maximum control. Let's look at the side view again, where we will see another stabilizing factor for breath control.